introductions to begin. First, our panelist, Jose Perez. Jose, we're very excited to have you with us today. Jose is a partner and professional clothier with Tom James. And Jose was a student at Appalachian State in the mid-'80s and is enjoying the fruits of an illustrious career. So we're glad to have you here and excited to hear what you have to say. Our next panelist is Christian Beech. He's a national account executive recently. Congrats on the promotion for bandwidth in the Raleigh area. He graduated from Appalachian State in 2020 as a graduate of the sales program. Also, we have Ariel Pope. She's a territory sales rep with the Pro Solutions division of Herc Rentals. She's living and working in Charlotte and also graduated from the sales program in 2019. And finally, we have with us Daniel Johnson. He's currently a senior technical recruiter with Signature Consultants. And Daniel, I assume you're in Charlotte as well. Is that correct?
Yep, I'm in Charlotte.
Great. And he's an app grad from 2020, but am I correct? Your degree was in American politics?
Yep, not in the sales program, but worked out anyway.
No worries. We got you to come over to the, I don't know, is that the dark side or the light side, but we're glad to have you with us. So again, those of you who may have joined us a little bit later, please, if possible, join us on camera. And I'm going to ask each of the panelists now to introduce themselves just a little bit further. Tell us about what your current professional position is, so help the participants understand what your company does and what you do with your company. And anything about any prior sales positions or experience that you may have held. So we can go in any order that we want, but Jose, since I introduced you first, I'll start with you.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, my name is Jose Perez, and I have I've been with Tom James now for 37 years. I started with Tom James when I was 24 years old, a couple years out of college. My first sales job was selling birthday and Christmas cards door to door with a little red wagon when I was about 10 years old, trying to get a microscope from the back of a comic book. I can't remember the name of the company that tried to recruit kids to do that, but that was my first sales job. And when I was at Appalachian, I sold books 2 summers in a row for the Southwestern Publishing Company. And that's where I got my first real taste of what it was like to make a presentation and make sales calls and get doors slammed in my face and deal with emotions and run a small business, and learned how to communicate better with people and deal with rejection. And so then I went to work for Tom James in 1985, and I've worked in 3 offices for Tom James. In the Charlotte market I started, that's where I grew up, and then I moved to Greensboro, North Carolina, opened an office in Greensboro. And then I moved to Atlanta to help run our office. And Atlanta was our biggest office, and ran that for 10 years. And I'm a divisional vice president with Tom James Company presently, and one of the top salesmen with our company.
Great, thank you. Christian, how about you? Tell us a little bit about Bandwidth, what you have been doing with them, what your new position entails, and whether or not you have any other prior sales experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thanks so much for having me today, Dr. Guy. I was a graduate in 2020 from Appalachian State, and I was in the sales program just like you guys. And I can honestly say that it's completely changed my career, right? I've been very, very blessed to find a job here at Bandwidth. And I don't know if any of you were job hunting during the pandemic at first, but I had all my offers pulled, right? And Dr. Guy helped me land on my feet at Bandwidth. So very fortunate there. But Bandwidth is a nationwide carrier. We sort of work in the software space for like communication. So like Square, you know how you get a text message from them after like you get a receipt or something like that. So we power stuff like that. Zoom, like we help power the video chat, stuff like that. So very, very fortunate. I started out as an SDR, which means that I was responsible for prospecting, cold outreach to potential customers, clients that could use our services. And then I got promoted to an SDR team lead, which means I helped recruit, trained, help new SDRs scale into their new role. It was an awesome taste of leadership, learning a little bit more about how things work at Bandwidth. You learn more about our internal processes and stuff like that. And just recently, literally on October 1st, I started out as a national account executive. So now I am having deals passed to me by SDRs and team leads, and hopefully going to start closing them pretty soon. I'm working on that part still, but really appreciate getting to talk with you guys today.
Great, Christian. Thanks. Ariel, tell us a little bit more about your position and Herc Rentals and any prior sales experience you might have had.
Hey team. So I'm with Herc Rentals out of our Charlotte market. So we're the third largest rental equipment company. So we do everything from, your skid steers, your scissor lift, really anything that you'll see on like a large construction site. I'm on our Pro Solutions team. So what that kind of means is I do all power and all of our HVAC. So anything in our emergency response realm, if your school goes out of power, if your hospital goes out of power, and then HVAC is just typical mechanical, so chillers, spot coolers, package units. And so we work with a lot of contractors just like they would on the actual job sites. So I guess this was really my first official sales role. Beforehand, I was always in customer service working. I actually worked at I graduated in 2019. I worked there for like 6 years, and then I worked some of you guys may know the nationwide office up there. So I was a customer service, kind of just front desk reception type. And so I guess my original role with Herc was within a training program. And so a lot of what I did wasn't in sales training, but it was in product knowledge training. So it was going out with my techs, going out with my mechanics, and actually getting physical with the equipment, knowing, how it works, how to run it. Can I set it up by myself? All of that good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Great, thank you. And Daniel, tell us a little bit about what Signature does, your role in that, and what that entails.
Yeah, so here at Signature, we are a IT services and consulting agency. So I specialize in the national sales and delivery team. Our company is based out of Fort Lauderdale, but I'm in the Charlotte office here. I started here with Signature when I graduated in December. So I moved to Charlotte right after, and I've been here ever since, and recently moved up to a senior technical recruiter, which pretty much means I help support clients in a lot of the major banking hubs in the country. Specifically, it would be like Dallas, Minneapolis, San Fran, New York, and Charlotte. Before that, I was a recruiting intern for Aerotech, which is another company here in Charlotte. And there I specialized more on the finance side than IT, but I was recruited kind of right out of school for Signature and been here ever since.
Great. So I'm going to continue with you, Daniel, on the next question, since you're the one whose at least educational path looked the least like sales. But I'm going to get back to all the rest of you with this question as well. So, when you came to college, did you envision sales as ever being part of your professional future? If so, why? And if not, how did you get there?
Yeah, so like you said earlier, I was an American politics major when I was planning on working in the public sector for government or state government. But I was recruited by Aerotech my junior year to just have a few conversations and come down to the Charlotte office. And I really found that the industry was great. There was a lot of potential there, and the growing need for professionals to work in that environment was growing more and more. So after those few conversations, I felt really encouraged, and from there I decided I want to work within a sales program. It was a little too late to change my major. I picked up some extra business classes, which really helped in the tail end, but really it was a lot of in-office learning and training and development. So since then, it's definitely changed my viewpoint on it, and it's definitely where my career is heading.
Great. So Christian, let's talk about you, because you mentioned something about being in the sales classes and how that changed your view of what you wanted to do. So what were you thinking when you came to school, and how did you end up in a sales career?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny. I, for the longest time, wanted to be a high school history teacher. That was like my dream. I know that might be crazy to some people, but that was my dream job. And I wanted to be a wrestling coach at whatever school I taught at. So I wrestled at Appalachian, and I came in first semester and I was dead set I was going to be an education major. I was very passionate about it. And then halfway through my first semester of college, just doing some more research, decided, hey, like I would like to think of myself as a go-getter. And one of the reasons sales really appealed to me was you sort of get what you earn. You know, the investment in yourself and in your own career really pays off. And actually, numerous conversations I've had with Dr. Guy, right? You can set yourself apart really, really well. You can illuminate yourself in a great light just based on your hard work, the sacrifices you make, and a lot of the lessons I learned from wrestling and the professional selling program specifically, right? Like just hard work, going out of your way to form those meaningful relationships. They really help a ton. And that's sort of how I turned the page to sales. My dad was an entrepreneur, so he was super excited to hear that I wasn't going to be a history teacher anymore. But it's fine. I still coach at a local high school in Raleigh, so I have the whole package now.
Great. So Ariel, I think you kind of came into it pretty early with the idea you might go in this direction. And why was that?
So I guess probably from the time I was 16 or 17, I knew that I wanted to do something that involved sales, something that was in business. And I knew I didn't want to be stuck in an office all day. So to me, that immediately meant sales. When I went into college, I actually started as a bio major. That lasted about a whole semester. And I was like, I hate science. Why am I doing this? I started as a bio major because I wanted to potentially do pharmaceutical sales. And then I ended up switching, and I was like, well, I don't have to have a bio degree to do pharmaceutical sales. Maybe medical device would maybe be the route that I wanted to go. I definitely wasn't thinking equipment rentals when I first started, but I did know sales. And then going through the program and going through the business school and going through professional sales classes there, it just kind of solidified that and helped build my confidence to kind of maybe branch out and look at some other options. And Dr. Guy definitely helped with that quite a bit as well. So
you were different because some of these folks didn't think about being in sales. You thought about being in sales, but you had some preconceived notions about a company or an industry like Herc Rentals until you actually spoke with the company and then changed your mind.
Yeah, no, it was she literally was like, I just want you to talk to him, just give him a shot. And I did, and it's been a great fit. So.
And Herc's been a great partner for us, but this was really less of a plug for Herc than it was to say to students that, keep an open mind. You don't know what you don't know. You have some idea that it would be great to work for this kind of company or sell this kind of product. And, Ariel was no different. And when she allowed herself to have those conversations with a company that she didn't think she had any interest in, she found out she was wrong. So, Jose, you told us you did a lot of, like the door-to-door book sales, kind of the summer things that a lot of students may do to make some money. But, when is it that the idea of being in sales as a career really settled in with you?
Well, when I was about 23 years old, I heard about Tom James through my sales manager from the Southwestern Company. And one day after church on a Sunday, he said, I've got something I wanted to talk to you about. And so we went out and told me, he said, I think this might be a potential career change for you. I was working for Piedmont Airlines at the time, which is now part of the U.S. Air, or not U.S. Air, but American Airlines. And I thought that Piedmont would be a great career, but it really didn't offer much. You couldn't really go but so far. A lot of companies, how far you go is based on your tenure or on, certain levels that they have that you can reach, but they don't have unlimited opportunity. And so he said, I think you're a lot more talented than what you're doing. And so I went and interviewed with Tom James, and quite frankly, it took me about a year to make the decision. A lot of my friends did not think that I could deal with the amount of rejection that it took to be in sales. And what I've realized over these 30 plus years is that there's a big difference between personal rejection and professional rejection. And personal rejection, I think everyone has a hard time with personal rejection. I don't know anyone that likes personally to be rejected. But professionally, I can hear a no and go on to the next one. And I've just done that a lot. I've heard millions of no's. I don't even know how many no's, but I've heard lots of yeses too. And the yeses are what, you never know where the yeses are going to come from. Do you hear the no's? It's part of the deal. So I think it was, I made 18 presentations with Tom James to go try to sell clothes, something I'd never done when I first started in 1985. And I didn't sell a sock. And all my family, my mother was telling me, you got the wrong job. But I said, I just believed that I could do it. My wife believed I could do it. And on the 19th presentation, I sold a guy in Charlotte 2 custom suits and 2 sport coats and 6 shirts and 2 pairs of pants and 8 ties. And I went out there, I felt like King Kong on top of the Empire State Building. And the next day I went out and sold 2 guys out of 5 guys that I saw. And never quit selling after that. It just kind of clicked for me.
Great. So what I want to ask next of all of you is, what do you see as the advantages or benefits of being in a sales career or sales position? And because, realistically, every position has its frustrations or drawbacks, what would those be? So Jose, what are some of the greatest rewards you get out of doing what you do? And then, what are the downsides?
The greatest rewards that I've gotten out of this business is that you become the people you hang around. And so the people that I've hung around for the last 37 years have been movers and shakers in the cities I've lived in. That's the people I call on. I call on the top men and women that run this city in Atlanta and in Charlotte and Greensboro and in Columbus and Albany, Georgia. They're the people that have the most wherewithal. They're the people that have been the most successful. And they think that appearance matters. And it does matter. And so I get to spend a lot of time with my clients and get to know them. They know me personally. I know their families. They know mine. And you become the people you hang around. And the people that I work with in our company have been top level people too, that have been very professional. So it's raised and elevated my knowledge of this business and industry, but also my view of life and how my worldview kind of fits together. It allows me not just to earn a good living, but to have made a good life. Great.
Ariel, what would you say to that? What have been the rewards of what you've been doing, and what are the drawbacks?
Yeah, so definitely, excuse me, the rewards of what I do, a lot of what I do is emergency response based, and 9 out of 10 times if somebody's calling me, they got a problem and it's not a good problem, and they're probably very upset when they first call me. And so I think one of my favorite things is that they call and they're so stressed out and they don't know what to do. It's a critical situation, critical facility. And I'm able to just kind of calm their nerves and be like, okay, well, like, this is what I can do and this is my time frame. And then at least there's a plan in place. Even if it doesn't go exactly perfectly, there's a plan in place, and they wouldn't be able to get that back up and running without us and without my team. So I would think that's probably, the most rewarding part. And, it does allow me to not only help people, but it does, create a good living for me as well. And then I would say the biggest downfall of what I do is probably, it's probably a lot of something I bring on myself. But so my team, my mechanics, my techs, my managers, all of them, I'm the only sales rep for my team right now. So I bring in all of the jobs that we have going on. And if I'm not busy, they're not busy. That means they're not getting overtime. They're not meeting their bonuses. They're not meeting their goals. And so sometimes that can be a lot of pressure, but I think that's a lot of stuff that I put on myself.
Great. Christian, pros and cons for you of what you do and of being in sales.
Yeah, so the pros definitely for me are the people. I don't think I could have ended up in a better place. Just when I came in, it was the middle of the pandemic, and there's a lot of people that still came into the office. And I know that sounds crazy. We were obviously safe and social distance and wearing masks and stuff, but just people that were so willing to help me grow. And now I mean, it's been a year and a half and I have all these great relationships with people. And then when I moved over to a team lead role, I got to actually build those relationships myself, invest in people, help them grow. And there's no better feeling, well, maybe closing a deal yourself, but there's no better feeling than having a new rep who's been struggling call you and say they hit their number for the month, and like it can completely change their trajectory at Bandwidth or any company, you know, because you're only as good as your latest result. And it's just a really rewarding thing to invest in people. A lot of my friends since I moved to Raleigh are Bandwidth people, and that's probably my favorite part. The only negative, which I think you can also turn into a positive as well, is you have to deal with that quota. You know, you have a number you have to hit and it resets every month, and you can have a great month and be on top of the world and maybe September, but then when October rolls around, it's a whole new animal. So for some people that's motivating. I know for some people they don't like that too much, but I think it's a good thing. It helps you stay motivated and not settle on what you've done. And like I said, if you have good people around you, it's definitely manageable.
Great. Daniel, what are your perspectives on this?
Yeah, so for me, some of the best parts of my job so far has really seeing the sales cycle come to life, from prospecting to acquiring new business to closing deals, and then from there getting to support the client's projects and seeing it come to fruition that they are successful and that they are going to be using our company again to help to consult with them. You know, from having the first initial cold call to setting up a follow-up to setting up a Zoom meeting, and all of a sudden we are getting their projects when we're helping them complete them in a way that their company is needing them to do, and helping them surpass their goals. That is a fantastic feeling when we get feedback and we get to see the project come to life that has been done because my agency has been there to help our clients. And that just builds relationships and allows more business to come our way. You know, and some of the hard parts are, you know, having to keep up in numbers, having to, you know, hit them like was said on a monthly basis. But really, you know, it just, if you're in this industry and you want to be a salesperson, that should motivate you every single day. So that's one of the best parts, and some of the worst parts is that, you know, there are ups and downs, but the ups are much better than the downs, which I think is true in a lot of sales roles.
Great. And you know, I just want to remark that, you know, and some of you kind of touched on this, the unlimited ceiling for, you know, income and advancement related to your own efforts. And yet what I find, you know, particularly notable that perhaps students note is because part of this session was built on misconceptions or stereotypes about selling and salespeople. So often those negative stereotypes are, you know, salespeople are just these money-hungry people that just want to sell you whatever they have to sell, whether you need it or not, because they want to meet their quota and win a trip or, you know, make money. And what I heard each of these people really emphasize was relationships, delivering value, being able to help people, you know, having both professional and personal relationships as a positive outcome, personal growth and development. So I think that's worth noting. So on that note, you know, what are, for you guys, what have been some of the predominant stereotypes you've been forced to confront in your sales roles? So what are they? You know, what have you done to overcome those? So Jose?
Stereotypes. Well, I mean, I think that you just kind of hit it, and that was that that salesmen just want to sell you anything. They don't really necessarily care about you. They don't care about you know, how satisfied you are. They just care about making the sale. And certainly, I think every industry has examples of that. I think you overcome things. I overcome it in my own presentation. It actually even goes beyond what our company puts forth, in that I sell myself, because I work for a company, and it's the name of our company is Tom James. When my clients buy clothes, they really buy clothes from me, and they do business with me. I am Tom James to them. So whatever company would be, whatever company you go to work for, you are the representative of that company, just like an ambassador for that company. And I enjoy that, because I'll tell clients, I'm dependable, I'm reliable. You can count on me. I will do what I say, and I will say what I do. You can trust me. And the reason I came by today is to apply for a job with you as your clothier. I hope you'll give me the chance to tell you why that might be in your best interest and might be a mutually beneficial relationship. And I'll say that to people, and nobody else says that. You don't ever hear anyone say, I'm dependable, I'm reliable, you can trust me, I will do what I say. I won't pass the blame on someone else. And so I think that's how I've overcome it, just by hitting it head on and saying that I'm different. You know, I'm not like every other salesperson. I'm a different type of salesperson. I'm a professional.
Great. Ariel, I mean, you can answer this any way you want, but I know in your industry, being a woman, there have been some particular stereotypes you've had to overcome.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, of course, there is the typical sales rep stereotype. I don't see that a lot in what I do, because what I do is I'm not trying to sell something before I leave a particular meeting. I'm trying to sell somebody on, hey, when you have a problem, like, let me be the person to help you. So I think that kind of speaks for itself. The biggest thing that I've had to overcome, I do work in construction. You know, I'm very young, I'm a female, and let's face it, it's not something that's been prevalent in the construction industry in the past. But it is something that is growing, and you're seeing more and more of it, which I'm super excited about. But a lot of times they're like, well, first off, have you ever done this before? Because you look like you just graduated high school. Second of all, you're a girl. Do you know what you're talking about? And so I think the biggest thing that I did to kind of overcome that is I'm not just a sales rep to my team. I mean, I can set up all my own equipment. I'll go pull the cables. I'll go pull the ductwork. I can do the whole 9 yards. And when it comes down to it, my customers know, hey, look, she doesn't like to do it, but if she's got to do it, first off, she can do it. And second of all, she's willing to be out there and doing it. And so I think really I overcome a lot of that by product knowledge, and really kind of holding my ground, and sometimes just kind of letting them know, hey, look, I might be a girl, but I can still do this just like anyone else can do this. And sometimes being very frank about it has worked for me, just because when you're confident about it and you know that you can do something and you express that, or you carry yourself that way, that's very helpful.
Great. Christian, stereotypes you've encountered, you know, what are they? What have you done to overcome them?
Yeah, so I think I've dealt with some of the more stereotypical stuff that, hey, we're intrusive people, all we care about is ourselves, you know? And I try to frame all the conversations I have with customers is, hey, I don't want to be a salesperson. I just want to identify a problem that you guys are having and see if we can be a potential solution. You know, worst case scenario, you can tell me to kick rocks and leave you alone, you know, but I just want to see if a prevalent issue that we've heard from other people is relevant to you guys. And especially in our industry, like with phone calls, 911, emergency notification, stuff like that. Like, I really am confident in the product that I'm selling, you know, like, this is a little crazy, but we help power some of the emergency notifications on dating apps, you know? So if you go on a really weird social media dating app and like you're walking home alone, you can click a button and the police will show up to where you are, you know? So like, we've saved people's lives before, and I'm really passionate. Or like, maybe it's a text message saying, hey, like, your test results for COVID came back, you know? There could be anything. And I'm really passionate about not trying to learn about what I want, but identify a pain or a problem that the prospect is dealing with and just see if we can be a solution. Because at the end of the day, that's way more valuable, because you're making it about them instead of you. And it just really goes a long way, making the customer feel heard and sort of misconstruing those stereotypes.
Great. Daniel, how about you?
Yeah, so I think one of the struggles I've had to overcome, just being a young sales professional, is coming across, very green. Those first 90 days are really tough, and they can really make or break you when you have to deal with a lot of professional rejection and really have to get to know your service. It's a little different when you're selling a service versus a product, something that's not tangible. But I think, you know, what's gotten a lot of success is similar to what's been said already, is providing value and creating value for your clients, because that trust is something that really goes a long way, because your clients will always be getting hounded on by your competitors, but they have to have a reason why they want to stick with Danny. They want to stick with Signature. They want to stick with the people we know and the people that have come through with us before. So kind of like I said before, seeing that actually come to life and knowing that you are being chosen for the reputation that you've built is a very satisfying feeling, especially after graduating from school and going right into the role. It does take a little bit to build that reputation, but once you do, there's really no better feeling, you know, having it pay off.
Great. So if you guys would tell us about one of your most memorable sales calls. Students, a call doesn't necessarily just mean a phone call, but we could call it a sales interaction or a meeting or whatever that was. So what is one of the most memorable, and what did you take away or learn from that? Jose? Yeah, you're muted.
Thanks. I was running our Atlanta office. I was the manager of our office, and we had a salesman resign from our company, and he had a customer that had bought a lot of clothes down in Columbus, Georgia. It's about a 2-hour drive. And so I contacted this customer to see if I could continue to serve them. They bought about $150,000 of clothes in 6 years from our company. So they were a good sized customer. If you think about, you know, clothing being a smaller item that you purchase, that's a lot of clothing. And so he said he would meet with me, but he wasn't really that interested. And the day before the appointment, he texted me and he said that, you know, I've decided I don't want to do this any longer. I'm going to go back to the stores and buy clothes. So anyway, I did not like that. And I called him up instead of texting him back. And I did get him on the phone. I said, well, could I come by and see you? I'm going to be down there anyway, which was absolutely not exactly the truth, because I was going down there to see him, and I was going to see some other people too, but he was the person that I really wanted to see. And I said, could I just come by and introduce myself to you? And he said, I really think it would be a waste of your time, and I don't want to waste your time, and I certainly don't want to waste my time. And I said, well, just 5 minutes, and at least you can put a name with a face. And so he said, well, you can come, but don't bring anything. I'm not interested in buying anything. So anyway, I went to see him. I sat down with him for a minute. I could tell he had his arms crossed, and he's 6 feet 8 inches tall. He was not that excited to see me. So I just asked him about his company and started to get him to talk about himself. And then I realized there was a correlation between his company and the Tom James Company and how they got founded. So I found some common ground. And then I told him about myself and how I'd come with the company. And then he started to perk up a little bit. And then I took out my 4 top clients' files, which the top guy had bought $2 million of clothes, and files about that, you know, like that thick. So I did what's called framing, and y'all probably talk about that, but I framed him. I just actually dropped the file right on the desk in front of him. And I said, this guy's bought a lot of clothes. He's bought $2 million of clothes from me. He's been really happy. Let me show you what I've done for him. And I opened up the file and I showed him how well organized it was. And then I put down my next file. It was the next biggest client I have. And this guy's bought, you know, almost $1 million of clothes. And I told him this. I said, you know, you've been exposed to the Tom James product, but you haven't been exposed to me. And if you gave me the opportunity, I'd show you it'd be a different story than what you had before. And you wouldn't need to go back to the stores because they won't do this for you. And he said, I can see that now. So I won't give you all the details, but in the next 2.5 hours, I made an $88,000 sale to a guy who said he was not going to buy anything else from us. Biggest sale I've ever made to that point. And I realized something when I walked out of there. You can never listen to what the customer says first. They're not giving you the true objection. You have to find out what that objection is. And the objection he had was that he had spent a lot of money, $150,000, and he hadn't been really happy because he didn't know how to use all these products he got, and they just kind of hodgepodged it together. But I approached it differently with him and satisfied a need that he had. And he's still buying to this day. In fact, he just bought $20,000 of clothes not a month ago. So, you know, just don't never listen to the, you hear the no, but don't accept the no. Move through it and try to find out what the real objection is. And then you can overcome it.
Great. Christian, what about you? So what's been one of your most memorable sales interactions so far? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, so I think this is a pretty funny story, but my first month on the floor ever, I was given an account that had come, they signed up for a free trial request. And so I called the guy, and I was super excited because usually if someone signs up for something like that, they're obviously pretty interested. And he picked up the phone and was like, pretty much told me to F off and was like, hey, I don't like you calling me on my personal cell phone. This is just disrespectful, blah, 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 and then hung up the phone. And then I called him again the next day, and I told him who I was, and he was freaking out again. He was super upset. I was like, sir, I do not mean to be disrespectful. I'm following up because obviously you took time out of your day to reach out to us. And based on what you said in the notes, it seemed like it was a pretty big issue. Worst case scenario, I will take you completely out of our system, blah, 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 blah. And I will make sure no one ever bothers you again. But I just wanted to make sure that you're taken care of. And it actually ended up turning into a really great conversation. He was just like, yeah, I'm sick and tired. I guess like the day before he had gotten a cold call from someone prior to me, and he had been rude and disrespectful. The person calling him had been, and he was just sour grapes or something. But and then I ended up having that deal go through all the way through the cycle and getting closed. So I didn't close the deal myself, but it was just a really interesting 180, you know, how like just listening to people and not being intrusive can go a long way. Unfortunately, I don't have any $20,000 stories yet, but hopefully I have some of those soon. And unfortunately, I have to run to a customer calling like right now. So I'm really sorry I have to hop a little early, but I really appreciate you guys. You're in great hands with Dr. Guy. And if you have any questions, feel free to add me on LinkedIn at any time.
Christian, thanks so much for being with us.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Daniel, most memorable sales interaction and what you took away from that?
Yeah, so mine actually wasn't too long ago. Moving up to the senior recruiter level, helping support some of our more enterprise skill sets and teams, especially here at Charlotte, and then specifically this team was in Dallas. I helped train a new salesperson who came on about 3 months ago. And he was having some trouble. He wasn't as sure-footed as he needed to be, and it was a lot of ups and downs. So I took a bigger step in shadowing him and kind of going through his daily schedule. And he was actually able to close a pretty sizable deal with one of a new account we had that hadn't been closed before. So it was an account breaker, which is you know, obviously a big deal for us to be able to come through for a new account. Even though it was an older client, it was a new account on that team. So being that it was someone that I, you know, brought up from, you know, day one, just graduated and is now closing an account breaker, being able to be there for him and see him succeed, while it wasn't necessarily a accomplishment myself that I closed the business, seeing him grow to be able to do that as my trainee, that has probably been my most memorable so far.
Great. And Ariel, how about you?
So I actually have a new one that I'm super excited about. So I guess this was maybe not quite a month or a little over a month ago. And it was a Sunday afternoon. I'm in my pool, I'm hanging out, I'm having a great afternoon. And one of my phone starts ringing, and it's one of my restoration customers. And I was like, it's somebody that we've worked with them since kind of I've been here, where you're very on friendly terms, very casual terms, very buddy terms. And I was like, Reese, you better have a good reason for calling me on a Sunday afternoon while I'm enjoying the pool. And he was like, yeah, Ariel, like I've got a good one for you. And it was a 9-story large loss flood for multi-million-dollar condos here in Charlotte. And that was probably, I got out of my pool probably around 4 a.m. and we didn't leave the job site until about 3:30 in the morning. And that was probably the hardest that I have ever had to work for any of my customers. But the next day, that same restoration company, you know, they came back and they were like, Ariel, like, you guys worked so hard last night. We want to take your team to lunch. Like, we want to take you guys out. And to me, that just spoke volumes, because typically as salespeople, you know, we're buying other people lunch. We're buying our customers lunch. And for my customer to come back to us and be like, you guys worked so hard and you guys got us out of a bind, we want to take your team to lunch. That was huge to me. And it meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to my team that I know worked really hard for me.
Great. I think just briefly, could each of you touch on, the three of you touch on how the pandemic changed your business, or how you do your business, if it did? And, you know, which of those changes, if any, do you see sort of persisting over time? Daniel?
Yeah, so working in human capital, on the sales and delivery side, the remote environment has been the biggest change. You can see I'm remote now. Our office is in Uptown Charlotte. I would usually be there, but we work remote. Lots of our teams work remote. It's actually allowed us to expand our business from, you know, we still did national business in the hubs that I've mentioned, but a lot of it was focused in Charlotte because we had a brick and mortar establishment here. But now that everything's moved remote, it's allowed us to really expand our business lines across the country, to where we are not competing with a competitor or another agency or another firm, where we can't have boots on the ground, but they can. When everyone is in a remote environment, it allows us to really play a bigger part with a lot of our clients, and has allowed us to establish a lot of new accounts and actually grow our team exponentially within the last year. So hopefully it's here to stay, because it's been actually pretty beneficial for us.
Great. Ariel, how about you? I mean, as you said, a lot of your work is emergency on-site work. So has the pandemic changed that at all, or is it business as usual?
So there for a while, it changed it. I guess we didn't really slow down, and the nature of the work that we didn't really change. Obviously, we added safety precautions as we would wear a mask. We tried to stay 6 feet away if possible. And again, we encouraged our team to go get their vaccine and to go do everything that they need to do to keep themselves safe. As far as me as a sales rep, it did change kind of the way that I did sales a little bit. I would only go into an office if it was a set meeting and I actually needed to see the site, because my customers didn't want me there and I didn't want to infringe. And quite frankly, I mean, I didn't want to be out there in front of a bunch of people every day. I think probably as far as an industry, what it changed the most is it changed, you know, what there was a demand for. So with the HVAC side of what I do, it's a lot of air quality control. So we were working with our hospitals. We were working with the temporary hospitals. We were working with temporary hospitals on Navy bases, or temporary quarantine spaces on Navy bases, etc. Just creating a lot of temporary structures, and then also putting the air quality in there. So the nature of what we rented kind of changed, or it didn't really change. It just kind of added and expanded. Whereas I don't typically rent 100 air scrubbers at a time for long-term rentals. That was a, you know, kind of a, oh no, this is an emergency, and it changed the way that we price things and situations such as that. But as far as our day-to-day, or as my sales cycle now, I'm still very cautious. I always go in with a mask. If they tell me I can remove my mask, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, just depending on the settings. And then when we're outside, we do try to keep, you know, our distance as far away as possible.
Right.
Luckily, with construction, 9 out of 10 times we are outside. So that we are fortunate in that.
Great. Jose, I know in a business like yours, people are dressing up. They're going to weddings. They're going on vacations. They're going to business meetings, into the office. And I know the pandemic had a big impact on that. So how did you and Tom James adapt to that?
Well, one of the things, the only good thing that I can think of that's good about getting older is the fact that you get perspective in life. And, you know, having done this for 3 decades, more than that, I have seen a lot of things affect the business climate of the United States. 1987, the stock market crashed. In 1991, there was another recession. 92, we went to the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. 99, everybody went business casual and said they're not wearing any more stinking ties. 2000, there was a dot-com bubble burst. In 2001, you had 911. 2002, you had a recession. In 2007, the market crashed. We had the biggest economic downturn since the Great Depression. And then you had the pandemic. We had 10 years of growth between that time. But what I've realized is that the only certain thing about business and life is the uncertainty of it, and that things always change. People still need to make a good impression. They did close down for a while during the pandemic, and they weren't going out. So it was tough sledding for a few months. But things don't stay constant. The pandemic is not going to stay constant. They're figuring out new ways, better ways to vaccinate us and to protect us from being infected. And everywhere you look, people are not dying and lying in the street. So it is somewhat politicized too, though I've had several people that are friends of mine that even passed away from COVID. But I realize that I haven't had it. My wife hasn't had it. A lot of people I know haven't had it. And the people that I do know that have had it, it has not been, for the most part, for most of them, as bad as the news media would make you think. There are some that have been extremely sick. So I'm not taking it lightly. I do mask up, and I've been vaccinated with 2 vaccines from Pfizer. But you have to go on in life, and people still need to make good impressions. And so they're still going to dress up for that, whatever those situations are, whether it's business or whether it's casual or formal or whatever. And so I'm there to help them with that. And our business has been growing steadily for the last 7 or 8 months. It's been growing enormously. We can't keep up almost with the demand right now. So we're working through that too, but that's part of life. You just work through things and you learn how to work, you adapt. That's what's great about sales. You can adapt in sales. You can always adapt. You know, there's not as many people wearing suits as there used to be, but there's enough people for me to sell suits too. And that's all I need to worry about. Is there enough for me? And so I go out and do what I can take care of every day. And that's enough.
Yeah, and Jose Lilly was on a panel similar to this, actually in my classes, and she indicated ways that it was challenging, but this has been one of her best years ever. From Dan down in Austin, we know that June was the 4th most successful month for Tom James in its 55-year history. So
That's right.
There are always ways to approach challenges and so forth and still come out on the positive end. I just want to, we have technically 4:20 is the end of the panel, but I want to open it up to any students who'd like to pose any questions either to a particular panel member or to the panel members in general. So, we can be here for 10 minutes if we need to. What would you like to ask our panelists, or a specific one?
I have a question.
Yes, Patrick.
Yeah. So let's say I'm a CIS major right now. And I'm graduating December, but I've kind of always been interested in sales, but I never really took that leap or had it in my coursework. And I was wondering, how would you kind of combine or get that experience of sales within the major that you have chosen? So within technology, how would you go about getting maybe that first sales job, or getting maybe certifications that would help you get that first sales job or help you within that position?
I'm going to start with Daniel, right?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of what I did was use the resources I had in front of me. So, it was too late for me to switch my major. I was a junior. It would have cost me a lot of, obviously, money, more loans, more time in college, less time working on my career. So what I did was I kind of sacrificed my my extra classes, the classes I got to pick that weren't in my major. I sacrificed those to take professional selling or business and some, marketing classes. And that's what really gave me some classroom experience. But what I would do is take advantage of career fairs, take advantage of sales panels like this. Use those resources. Feel free to message myself, anyone in the panel, or any sales professionals that you feel it would be comfortable to message on LinkedIn and ask them to have a conversation with you. try to have a people-facing part-time job. If you're in college, try to get that people-facing experience. I know a lot of sales is, like a lot of the panel members said today, is a lot of rejection and a lot of, tough going, especially at first. So I would say try to use all those resources, and then really never miss a chance to have a conversation with someone who might be in an industry that you're interested. Always take the call, always take the interview, always attend the panel, because it takes one contact to get you there. That's how I was fortunate enough, just by going to the right career fair and talking to the right person at the right time, and that has shot my career up. So I would say just use the resources available, and if you have any free electives, man, take those business classes, because it really helps a lot, especially terminology wise, and just kind of being able to speak the language.
Ariel or Jose, any perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say honestly, just I grew up around mechanical, electrical knowledge. I always had kind of a background in it, but it wasn't something that I necessarily knew that I wanted to go into sales for. But you clearly have the background knowledge from your major in that. So I would lean on that a lot too, because a lot of sales is the product knowledge, and that's so important, because you can't sell a product that you're not confident in and that you don't, or it's very hard to sell a product that you're not confident in, that you don't believe in, because it just doesn't come across sincere. So I think that honestly, it gives you a little bit of a hand, like gives you a step ahead of some of the other candidates, maybe just because you do already have that background knowledge. And for me, that was the hardest part of my training, was learning my product.
Gotcha.
My opinion on it, though I don't know that much about the tech industry, is that anytime you're interested in a company or a field, that you should try to get an internship in that field and with a company that you think you might like to work for. If you can get an internship, it'll teach you about the company, the culture. It'll teach you about the industry. You'll see if you really, because sometimes you think you might like something, like Ariel said, she wanted to be a biology major, and then she realized, I hate biology. Well, I had the same, I thought I was going to be a nurse. So I started with biology too, and I hated chemistry, except for this one cute girl that was in chemistry. I liked that, but I didn't like the chemistry itself. So, you find, after a while, you find out where your interests lie and where your talents lie. And an internship will help you identify those things and make sure that it's what you want to do for a vocation. In life, you got to dig in someplace. And there are a lot I know that there's a lot of thought that you can go and you can experience several different jobs before you find the one that's right for you. That's maybe true in some ways, but that's not necessarily true. The best thing that you can do is find out what you'd be interested in, then dig in and get to work building a life. And the quicker you can do that, the better off you'll be. And the more you'll make, the more success you'll have, the happier you'll be. I've been very happy now for 37 years with Tom James. Not 100% of the time, but if I look across the tapestry of my career, I've been very blessed and made some great friendships, made a lot of money. I've gotten all the things that I need out of life. I've paid for 2 college educations. I've paid for my home. I just bought a beach home. I've got a home here in Atlanta. It's paid for, got money in the bank, got cars that are paid, don't have any debt. Those are the things you want to have when you get to be 60 years old. You want to be able to look back and say, I've done this, done this, done this. And goals are very important, and connecting those goals. So, as early as you can figure out what you want, I think an internship is one of the clearest paths that I would say for our company too. And for a lot of companies, they do internships in the summer and do that instead of doing some job that has nothing to do with your field.
Right. And Patrick, I would just add that, tech is a mass growth area. I mean, tech covers so many bases, and if you're knowledgeable in tech and you have some sales skills, even if you took an internship that maybe wasn't technology, but if you want to get in sales, get a little bit of sales experience, that and your technology, if you decide to leverage that, will open a lot of doors of opportunity for you.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, then. Well, Jose, Daniel, Ariel, and of course, Christian's gone, but so appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and offer your insights. I've done this panel, seems like, almost 100 times now. It's really not that many, but